Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here today. If this story touches you, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss these real confessions. Today I have to share something that still makes my heart race every time I think about it, a sweet, unexpected connection that completely melted me from the inside. I'm just a regular 28-year-old woman running a small cozy bookstore cafe in a quiet neighborhood. My days are simple: opening the shop at 8 arranging fresh flowers on the counter, steaming milk for lattes, and chatting with the usual customers. Life felt stable, a little lonely after my breakup 6 months ago, but peaceful enough. The kind of peace that sometimes felt too quiet, like the space between pages where nothing happens but you keep turning anyway. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, the bell above the door tinkled softly and he walked in tall, gentle-eyed, shaking rain from his dark hair. The moment our eyes met, while I handed him a warm towel, something shifted. His quiet thank you carried the faint scent of fresh pine and warm vanilla, and I felt a tiny spark I hadn't felt in years. My fingers brushed the edge of the towel he took, and for a second the air between us felt heavier. Warmer, like the rain outside had followed him in and decided to stay. I told myself it was nothing, just a customer caught in bad weather. But when he smiled, small and grateful, my chest did this silly little flip I couldn't quite hide. He stood there dripping a bit on the wooden floor, eyes scanning the shelves like he was looking for more than a book. I busied myself wiping the counter, but my hands weren't steady. The scent of him lingered even after he moved away. Pine needles after a storm mixed with something sweet and comforting like fresh baked vanilla. He ordered a simple black coffee to go, but he didn't leave right away. Instead, he wandered over to the poetry corner, towels still draped over his shoulders. I watched from behind the counter, pretending to rearrange the mugs. Every time he turned a page, I caught myself holding my breath. The rain tapped against the windows like it was trying to tell me something I wasn't ready to hear. When he finally came back to pay, our eyes met again. Closer this time, his voice was low, almost shy. "Nice place you have here. Feels like a warm hug on a day like this." I managed a soft laugh, but inside my thoughts were spinning. Why did his words settle so gently against my skin? Why did the warmth from his hand, still holding the towel, make the lonely kid carried for months suddenly feel sharper? I handed him his change, and our fingers almost touched. Almost. The space between them hummed with something unspoken. He thanked me once more, that same quiet tone, and stepped toward the door. But before he pushed it open, he glanced back, just one look. My pulse louder still. I stood there long after the bell stopped ringing, staring at the spot where he'd been. The faint trace of pine and vanilla still hung in the air like a secret I wasn't supposed to keep. My heart was doing that thing again, racing, then slowing, then racing once more. I pressed a hand to my chest, whispering to the empty room, "It's just the rain, just a stranger. Don't be silly." But even as I said it, I knew the lie tasted sweet. Because for the first time in 6 months, the quiet in my little shop didn't feel quite so empty. And somewhere deep inside, a tiny, trembling part of me wondered what would happen if he came back tomorrow. The rain kept falling, soft and steady, and I couldn't stop replaying the way his eyes had held mine, like he'd seen the same almost moment I had. Like maybe, just maybe, the spark wasn't only in my imagination. He started coming in every few days, always at that quiet hour when the afternoon light slanted through the windows just so. Same oat milk latte, same slow browse through the poetry shelves. I'd already memorized the way he held the cup, fingers curling around the warmth like it was something fragile. Each time our small talk stretched a little longer, a comment about the sudden rain tapping the glass, a shared soft laugh over an old title that made us both pause. And then there was the moment his fingertips brushed mine when I passed him the cup. Just the lightest graze, warm and steady, nothing more. But the texture of his skin lingered on mine long after the bell above the door had fallen silent again. I stood there behind the counter, pretending to wipe the same spot, heart beating too loud in the empty shop. Why did such a small thing feel like the air had grown thicker, heavier around us? I told myself he was probably just being friendly. A regular customer who liked the quiet atmosphere. That was all. "You're still healing, don't be stupid," I'd whisper to the mirror while closing up at night. Locking the door with trembling hands, the The shop felt too still then, only the softest humming low in the background like a secret I was ready to share. Alone in my apartment, I'd catch myself replaying the low timbre of his voice, that gentle way he said my name when he finally learned it. That faint trace of vanilla and pine that seemed to cling to the air even after he left. My chest would flutter against every warning my mind tried to raise. He wasn't rushing anything. There, closer each visit. His shoulder almost touching mine when he reached for a book on the high shelf, the heat from his body brushing past like a promise that never quite landed. I'd hold my breath without meaning to, feeling the pull, that slow gravity drawing me nearer even as I stepped back to rearrange the displays. My best friend noticed. Of course, she'd drop by after work, eyes narrowing playfully over her own coffee. "You seem distracted lately," she'd say, tilting her head. "Everything okay at the shop?" I'd smile too quickly, shrug it off with something about inventory or tired feet, but inside the words burned to come out. How could I tell her I was daydreaming about a man whose name I still didn't know how to ask for properly? That every time the shop emptied and the last customer left, the loneliness I thought had buried months ago started aching again, sharper than before. The soft jazz playlists suddenly felt too intimate, too full of spaces where his voice should have been. I kept it all locked tight, like the drawer where I hid the little notes I never wrote down. Because saying it aloud would make it real, and real meant risking the fragile peace it built after the breakup. Yet the ache grew anyway, every empty evening pulling my thoughts back to him. One afternoon the rain came harder, and he stayed longer than usual, flipping through pages while I pretended to dust shelves nearby. Our conversation rifted from the weather to favorite lines of verse, voices dropping softer. His hand rested near mine on the counter when he set the book down. Not touching, just close enough that the warmth radiated through the inch of space between us, making my skin prickle with awareness. I forgot how to breathe for a moment, caught in that trembling edge where everything felt possible and impossible at once. Why him? Why now, when I'd sworn off letting anyone close again? The question circled in my head like the steam rising from his latte, but the pull only deepened. That vanilla pine scent wrapped around me as he leaned in slightly to point out a passage, and my heart did that helpless little surrender, even as fear whispered I was reading too much into a stranger's kindness. The shop felt smaller with him in it, the walls warmer, the loneliness quieter, but only until he left. Then it rushed back, heavier, leaving me staring at the door long after the rain had eased. I pressed my fingers to the spot where his had almost met mine, feeling the ghost of that warmth, and wondered how much longer I could pretend this was nothing. Because deep down, in the part of me that still trembled at night, I knew it wasn't just friendly anymore. And that truth scared me more than the empty shop ever had yet left me waiting, breath held, for the next time the bell would ring. One slow evening the clock ticked past closing time and he didn't leave. The shop lights were low, casting everything in that soft amber glow that made the shelves look like they were holding their breath right along with me. An old song drifted from the speaker in the corner, "Can't Help Falling in Love," the melody wrapping around us like warm honey. We stood behind the counter talking about the loves that had slipped away and the quiet hope for second chances, voices low as if the walls might overhear. His eyes held me in a moment too long, then his hand moved, slow and deliberate, reaching across the narrow space between us. Fingers brushed a stray lock of hair behind my ear, the touch so gentle it sent a flood of warmth straight through my chest. Melting something it kept frozen for months, I stopped resisting. In that heartbeat I let myself feel it fully, the pull, the ache, the way my pulse answered before my mind could argue. He was still so close I could feel the heat from his skin, that faint vanilla pine scent drifting closer, making the air between us feel alive. I didn't pull away, couldn't. The song played on, and for once I didn't fight the gravity drawing me nearer. My breath caught, trembling on the edge of something I wasn't ready to name, yet everything in me leaned into the almost of it all. Like clockwork, would dim the lights until the shop felt like our own secret world, slice into the lemon cake I'd baked that afternoon, the tart sweetness lingering on our tongues while hours slipped away in quiet conversation. His hand would find mine on the counter, not grasping, just resting there, warm fingertips brushing lightly against my skin in a way that made my heart stutter every single time. That vanilla pine scent would wrap around me like a promise I was terrified to believe, delicious and terrifying all at once, leaving me breathless long after the door clicked shut behind him. Each evening the new rhythm settled deeper. Would laugh softly over shared stories, the space between our shoulders shrinking until the heat from his body brushed mine when he reached for another plate. I'd catch myself staring at the way his fingers curved around the mug, imagining how they might feel tracing my cheek again. The secret felt sweeter with every visit, yet heavier too, because pretending it was still innocent was getting harder when my chest fluttered at the mere sound of the bell. Mrs. Lang stopped by the next morning with her usual tea. She leaned across the counter, eyes twinkling with that knowing smile. "Saw you through the window last night, dear. Looked like you had a new friend keeping you company after hours." Her words landed light, teasing, but they hit me like cold rain soaking through my sweater. Suddenly the secrecy that had felt so delicious turned heavy on my shoulders. What would people think if they knew? Was I moving too fast after everything I'd sworn to protect myself from? And could this sweet, steady man really want someone as ordinary as me, with my plain little shop and my guarded heart? Doubt crept in slow and relentless, whispering through the quiet afternoons. I replayed his gentle touch, the way his voice softened when he said my name, yet the questions wouldn't quiet. What if I was reading too much into kindness? What if the warmth I felt was only mine? The shop felt smaller with those thoughts pressing in, the vanilla pine memory now angled with worry that left my hands trembling when I locked up alone. I wanted to believe in the pull between us, in the way my breath still caught at the thought of him. But the fear of falling too far too soon wrapped tighter around my chest, leaving everything hanging on the edge of what might come next. That same night after he left, I stood alone in the shop with the song still echoing softly from the old speaker and his scent clinging to my sweater like a secret I couldn't wash away. The quiet pressed in, but instead of fear tightening its grip, something inside me finally spoke louder, clearer. "Stop overthinking. Let yourself be happy. Just this once." My fingers traced the spot on the counter where his hand had rested earlier, still warm in memory, and the ache in my chest softened into a different kind of pull. When his text came through asking if he could come by after closing tomorrow, I stared at the screen for what felt like forever. Then I typed one word. I had chosen to indulge, even if it scared me half to death. The reply left my hands trembling, but the decision settled deep, like stepping off the edge of a familiar cliff into something warmer below. No more fighting the gravity that kept drawing me back to him. No more pretending the flutter in my stomach was nothing. I wanted this. Whatever this quiet, heartwarming thing between us was. Even if it came with risks I wasn't ready to name. Since then the shop feels warmer somehow. The afternoon lights ofter through the windows, the days brighter with that gentle anticipation humming underneath every task. I've gained a tenderness I thought I'd lost forever after locking my heart away for so long. The way he looks at me across the counter, like I'm the only story worth reading, like my ordinary little world matters. It melts something guarded inside me every single time. His fingertips brush mine when he helps clear the plates, never demanding, just there, warm and steady, sending the softest spark through my skin that lingers long after HE's gone. That vanilla pine scent still wraps around the air when HE's near, comforting and dizzying, reminding me I'm not as frozen as I once believed. There are still quiet worries that creep in during the empty hours, little shadows whispering, what if this sweetness fades? What if I'm opening too wide too soon? Yet the gains feel heavier, sweeter. The laughter we share over nothing important, the way my chest loosens when he says my name like it's something precious. My heart, once so carefully guarded, has melted open in the gentlest, most beautiful way, like ice giving way to spring without a single harsh word. The shop hums with it now, even when I'm alone, folding aprons, arranging fresh flowers, a quiet hope blooming where doubt used to live. Do you think I did the right thing by opening my heart and letting him come inside my quiet little world? Have you ever had a moment where love felt this unexpectedly heartwarming, pulling you gently towards something you weren't sure you deserved? Drop your thoughts below, like if this story melted you even a little, and subscribe for more real confessions that might just warm your heart too. See you in the next one, but even as I say that, a small ache lingers in the quiet after the words, because some nights when the lights dim and the song fades, I still wonder how long this tenderness can last before the world outside presses back in. What if the warmth we're building is as fragile as the steam rising from our shared mugs? What if one day he walks through that door and the pull between us has quietly shifted, leaving me standing here with only the echo of vanilla pine and a heart that learned to open? Maybe too late to close again,